Welcome to the program. I'm Jared Reid. The longest government shutdown in US history is over. After 43 days, that paralysed Washington and left hundreds of thousands of workers unpaid. President Donald Trump is about to sign into law a temporary funding bill that will reopen federal agencies. It's being seen as a win for Trump's Republicans after enough Senate Democrats dropped their opposition. The deal, which leaves out healthcare subsidies that Democrats were holding out for, then cleared its final hurdle in the House of Representatives, where it passed with the Republicans' slim majority.
The bill is passed. The motion is adopted.
The moment America had been waiting for. After 6 weeks and more than a dozen failed attempts, representatives passed the Senate deal to fund the government and end the shutdown. The news will be celebrated by many across the nation, the fallout having left more than 1 million federal employees unpaid or out of work, suspended food benefits to many low-income Americans, and cancelled or delayed thousands of flights for airline passengers.
But the most important thing right now is that we get back to work, making sure the federal government can provide the essential services that people depend on, and that Congress can continue working to pass full-year funding legislation providing responsible federal spending and fund those essential services.
Yet many still aren't happy. Firstly, Democrats, who ultimately abandoned their party's demands, chiefly around proposed healthcare cuts, an issue that came to dominate the stalemate, though it's a fight they'll seek again.
We believe as Democrats that healthcare has to be a right, and a right that's affordable and available to every single American in the United States. That's what this fight is all about. And that's what the fight will continue to be about.
Meanwhile, Republican approval ratings took a bashing of their own, accused of their own share of stubbornness since the previous federal budget expired on October 1st. That all changed in the Senate on Monday, after 7 Democrats and 1 independent defected and paved the way for a breakthrough. Now, that deal has cleared the House. With temporary funding only secured through to January 30th and political tensions higher than ever, many fear the next stalemate might not be far away.
DW's Misha Komodovsky joins me from Washington, D.C. to walk us through this story. So, Misha, the longest US government shutdown in history is now over. There was lots of applause and lots of happy faces as the bill passed, so there must be a sense of relief in Washington tonight.
Yes, Jared, it is indeed a big night on Capitol Hill, a big day here. The longest shutdown in the American history is over. And this continuing resolution is signed by President Trump right after passing the House. Usually it takes a few hours to put it on the resolute desk of the Oval Office. And the president decided not to waste time here and sign it right away tonight. Yes, it provides a sense of relief, but not for long. As you said, the CR will fund the government through January 30th. So the question is, will we face another shutdown anytime soon?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. But I guess this spending bill passed 222 to 209, a number of Democrats crossing the aisle. What's in the bill exactly?
Well, the CR will fund the government through January 30th, as I said, and it falls in 3 long-term spending bills. It guarantees back pay for federal workers and rolls back some of the layoffs that the administration announced 2 days into the shutdown right away. Also, the resolution includes money for food stamps, or SNAP as it's called here in the United States, through the end of the next fiscal year, through September. So we have to wait and see if another shutdown will happen in a matter of just a couple of months.
Yeah, Misha, so many people were impacted by this shutdown, including thousands of federal employees. What happens to them and to the agencies and public services that they work for?
Well, now federal workers will get their next paycheck. It will take quite some time, some extra time to be paid retroactively, and it is expected that agencies won't recover right away. And here's why. Basic services, of course, will come back within weeks, but clearing the huge backlog and rebuilding staff could take months, experts say, and some expect a full recovery to take a few months or even longer.
Misha, this dragged on for many weeks. In your opinion, who gets the blame in the eyes of the American people?
Well, it's hard to say because Democrats didn't get the healthcare subsidies they wanted, and some of their supporters are quite upset, extremely upset. Several centrist Democrats from swing districts even broke with their party and voted for the package, most of them representing highly competitive purple areas. That describes why they made this decision. But people are frustrated with both parties here, and while Democrats are taking most of the blame right now, Republicans could face bigger political problems later.
It's DW correspondent Misha Komodowski in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Misha. It's great to welcome Timothy Hagel now. He's Associate Professor of Political Science at the University of Iowa. Welcome to you, Professor. So as it stands now, the shutdown is nearly over, it seems. What does it tell us about the current state of congressional negotiations and party polarization as well?
Well, it pretty much tells us that Republicans and Democrats are having a difficult time getting along and actually doing anything constructive, which is unfortunate, but it's sort of the times that we live in, that there's just such partisanship going on right now that particularly Democrats really don't want to give Trump and Republicans more generally a win under certain circumstances. And yet they basically had the shutdown going on, as you say, for 43 days and then ended up with pretty much nothing as a result.
So there's no winners in this situation?
You know, that's probably a good way to think about it. Certainly the Republicans are very happy because the Democrats didn't get what they wanted, which was, as you indicated, an increase or an extension of the subsidies for Obamacare. Maybe that will come. Maybe they'll be able to work something out. But Democrats, of course, wanted it before they would reopen the government. They thought they had leverage, but they really didn't. And the Democrats tried very hard to blame it on Republicans, and the Republicans really couldn't do anything about it unless they got rid of the filibuster in the Senate, but ultimately did get the 8 senators, Democratic senators, to vote for it. So it's sort of a win for Republicans, but not entirely, especially given the results of some of the elections that we had a week or so ago.
And we're just looking at some live pictures of the vote happening as we speak. Professor Timothy Hagel, how do you think the length of this shutdown is going to impact people's trust in their Congress?
You know, oddly enough, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And that's mainly because people really don't have a lot of trust in government right now, that they've been disappointed in the way that Congress in particular has been operating for some time now. And so this didn't seem to really add too much more to that negativity. It's certainly something that the people that were directly affected, the federal workers in particular that weren't getting paychecks and things of that nature, or the last few days, the chaos that's ensued in the airline industry here in the United States, that's certainly going to make people mad. But I think by and large, it'll be a short-term problem that we'll see other things crop up, and especially as we enter an election year, that other issues will take precedence.
Yeah, speaking of that, these elections coming up, do you see any long-term impact, firstly, on the president and the congressional leaders?
That's a good question. As far as the president is concerned, I think the answer is no. Again, the economy is really going to be the thing that drives whether Republicans and Trump in particular have any success. Now, obviously, Trump isn't on the ballot in the midterm elections,
right,
but still, he's sort of the face of the Republican Party, and Democrats will use that. And if Trump's economy is doing well, that the Democrats won't have as much to argue about. In terms of the leadership, that's something that's going to be interesting, that right now many Democrats in the House are very unhappy with Chuck Schumer, who's the minority leader in the Senate. But we haven't so far, or at least I haven't heard any senators speak out that they were disappointed with what Schumer ended up doing. So we'll see what happens. There have been some of the younger Democrats in the House that have been calling for change. They want to see some younger people there. But I'm not sure that there's anybody that's in the Senate that would really be willing to step up under these circumstances.
Yeah, Professor Hagel, I want to take a bit of a broader look now. I'm here in Europe and our viewers on DW are all over the world. What do you think some of the lessons or takeaways are for those not in the US watching all of this unfold right now?
Well, it's hard for me to look at it from your perspective in that sense, because I'm sort of in the midst of this and follow this stuff every day. And it seems pretty chaotic here. And I have to imagine that those of you abroad really think it's even worse. And that's like, what are you people doing? Why can't you get along? Why are you having trouble just passing a budget? Well, it gets into a lot of the nitty gritty. And again, as I said, Democrats, basically, they really don't want to give Trump a win in any sense. They really dislike President Trump for a variety of reasons. And so it makes the partisanship that much more difficult to overcome. At some point, maybe we'll get past it. But, even to the extent that in 2028, when Trump's going to be not running for re-election, maybe J.D. Vance, the vice president, would, and he would carry on that MAGA, Make America Great Again standard, and so the Democrats will still be arguing against that. So it may be some time before we're able to settle down a little bit and get to something that's a little bit more regular in terms of the normal chaos as opposed to the current state that we're in.
Really appreciate your insights today. That was political scientist Timothy Hagel from the University of Iowa. Thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure.